The winter heavens sprawled boundless and soft azure over the Montana prairies. Dawn's frost gripped the faded grass, glimmering in the faint sunlight. Elizabeth lurched onward, one hand pressed against her wounded side, the other gripping the shredded remnants of her unelegant gown. Her breath formed tinamists in the chilly air as she forced herself forward across the vast terrain. 3 days prior, the stagecoach had been traveling steadily westward when figures emerged on the skyline. 6 men, their faces masked with bandanas, encircled the coach, weapons raised. The heist was quick and brutal. While the other travelers yielded their possessions, Elizabeth had slipped away amid turmoil, escaping with only fragments on her body and a bullet scrape along her ribs. Now, weariness threatened to overtake her. Each step grew heavier than thallest. The blood had mostly ceased flowing, yet the injury pulsed with every heartbeat. In the distance, dust swirled from approaching horsemen. Elizabeth's heart plummeted. The outlaws had tracked her path. She scanned the terrain frantically for a place to conceal herself, but the plains offered no refuge. With nowhere to flee, she sank to her knees in the frost-laden grass. If this was her end, she would meet it with courage. As the riders neared, Elizabeth saw it was only one man, getting several horses. He sat tall in the saddle, his wide-brimmed hat tilted low against the sun. A tan leather coat framed his shoulders, and at his hip, a revolver sat in its holster. Marked by a red circle on thymage, the stranger slowed when he noticed her, then steered his horse straight to where she knelt. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low but kind as he dismounted. "You're injured." Elizabeth gazed up into eyes that evoked the sky after a tempest, clear, vigilant, and somehow both stern and gentle at once. His face was rugged from sun and wind, with a firm jaw shaded by a day's growth of beard. "Outlaws," she managed to utter. "Stagecoach robbery. I fled." The man nodded slowly, comprehension in his eyes. "Name's Jack," he said, kneeling to her level. "Jack Thompson. My ranch is close by." "Elizabeth," she answered, her voice barely above a whisper, without another word. Jack aided her to her feet and hoisted her onto his horse. The motion sent pain surging through her side, but she stifled her cry. He mounted behind her, one arm steadying her while the other held their ends. In the distance, riders appeared on the horizon, highlighted by a yellow arrow in the image. "Your men?" Elizabeth asked, tension in her voice. "Yes," Jack confirmed. "My ranch hands. We've been pursuing those outlaws for days. They've been raiding stagecoaches across the territory." As they rode east, the landscape slowly shifted. Fences emerged, then herds of cattle grazing despite winter cold. At last, a grand ranch house came into view, far finer than Elizabeth had anticipated in the shrugged land, built of sturdy timber with glass windows. It stood 2-story estel with a broad porch encircling the front. Smoke rose from stone chimneys, promising warmth inside. Beyond the main house stood barns, bunkhouses, and corrals. Not just a ranch, but a small dominion carved from the wilderness. "Welcome to Clearwater Ranch," Jack said as they neared. Inside, the house revealed surprising elegance. Polished wooden floors stretched beneath fine furniture. Oil paintings adorned walls covered with actual wallpaper, not newspaper or bear logs. A silver-haired woman hurried forward when they entered, concern etched across her gentle face. "Margaret, this lady needs care," Jack said. "She escaped those outlaws we've been tracking." "Oh, you poor soul," Margaret said, taking Elizabeth's arm gently. "Let's get you cleaned up and tend to it wound." As Margaret led her away, Elizabeth glanced back at Jack. He stood in the entrance hall, removing his hat to reveal dark hair tinged with gray at the temples. Their eyes met briefly before Margaret guided her into a bedroom furnished with a proper bed. Not the simple cots Elizabeth had expected. Later that evening, bathed and dressed in borrowed clothes, with her wound properly bandaged, Elizabeth sat across from Jack at a long dining table. The meal before her was modest but plentiful: roast beef, potatoes, fresh bread. It seemed unthinkable that just hours ago, she had been certain of her demise on the open plains. "Your ranch," Elizabeth said, gazing around at the well-furnished bedroom. "It's not what I expected other." Jack's lips curved in a faint smile. "Most folks say that." He set down his fork. "I came west 20 years ago with nothing but 2 horses and resolve. Build all this one choice at a time. It must have taken more than just hard work. Elizabeth observed. Something flickered in Jack's eyes. A brief wariness that appeared and then vanished. You're perceptive, he said, when I arrived. The railroad was planning its route through the territory. I saw potential where others saw only barrenland. Over the following days, as Elizabeth regained her strength, she began to grasp what Jack had created. The cowhands spoke of him with deep respect. The local banker, who visited on afternoon, treated him with unusual deference. Even the sheriff, who came to take Elizabeth's statement about the outlaws, seemed to regard Jack as an equal. Not just a rancher. It was Margaret who finally explained. As she helped Elizabeth hang laundry in a rare moment of winter sunshine. He owns half the county now, Margaret said quietly. Started with cattle, then bought land when nobody saw its worth, when Thurl Road needed right-of-way. Jack read down the passages. Through the mountains. Then came investments in banks, mercantiles, even the Stagecoach line. She pinned a shirt to the line. He built something extraordinary while everyone else was just trying to endure Theseusons. Why stay here, Elizabeth asked, with such wealth? He could live in Denver or even back east. Margaret's eyes crinkled with fondness. This land's in your blood. Besides, who would he be in those cities? Just another wealthy man. Here, he's built something that matters. That evening, Elizabeth found Jack on the porch, watching the sunset paint the snow-dusted plains in gold and crimson. He offered her that chair beside him, and they sat in comfortable silence as darkness gradually claimed the land. The sheriff caught 5 of those outlaws. Jack said finally, when you're well enough, the Stagecoach company will arrange transport to wherever you were headed. Elizabeth nodded, surprised to feel reluctance at the thought of leaving. I was traveling to Sacramento. My sister runs a dressmaking shop there. Do you so? Jack asked, genuine interest in his voice. Yes, it was my trade in St. Louis before. She trailed off, not ready to speak of the fire that had taken her husband and their small shop. As night settled fully over Theland, a coyote called in the distance, a lonesome sound that echoed the uncertainty Elizabeth felt about her future. There's no dressmaker in town, Jack said, his voice thoughtful. Near Stones to days. Ride. Folks around here would welcome someone with your skills. Elizabeth turned to study his profile against the darkening sky. Are you offering me a position? Mr. Thompson, I'm suggesting a possibility, he replied, meeting her gaze. Steadily, this territory needs people who can build something lasting. People like you. Behind his measured words, Elizabeth sensed something more, a solitude that matched her own. A hope neither was yet ready to name. I'll consider it, she said softly. Jack nodded. Satisfied with this answer for now, that's all I ask. As stars appeared above Clearwater Ranch, Elizabeth realized that sometimes what seems like an ending the brutal attack, her desperate escape can instead become an unexpected beginning. She had fled from danger only to find herself in the presence of a man who had quietly built an empire, while the world wasn't looking, and perhaps, she thought, as Jack offered his hand to help her rise from her chair, she had found something even more valuable than safety. She had found a place where she might belong.